Ladies and gentlemen, the time of the budget OLED TV is upon us, and today we unbox and take a look at the Vizio H1 OLED TV. We're going to check it out right after the jump. What is up, Techno fam? How are you doing? Chana D, your Techno Dad here. And I know you guys are going to be watching this on December 31st. So I want everybody to have a happy and safe New Year's Eve. And this is the first New Year's Eve in 7 years. I will not be DJing, obviously, because you can't DJ anywhere because there's no parties. So because of that, and since it's the new year, I wanted to make sure everybody knows that this Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be DJing for double the time. And that's right, I'll be DJ streaming for 6 hours. It's going to be awesome. Definitely come by, check it out here on my YouTube channel. So if you aren't subscribed, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified about the stream and other videos like this TV video. And for sure, YouTube is going to cut down my stream at around 2 to 2.5 hours. So everything will continue on my Twitch channel. So make sure you follow me up on Twitch as well. So yeah, definitely have a great new year and come by. It's going to be awesome. Oh yeah. All right, let's go upstairs and check out this OLED. So first off, big thanks to Vizio for sending out the 55-inch H1 OLED for me to review. Truly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. One thing I noticed at first was the TV isn't heavy at all, but that stand, wow, that stand is heavy. Setting up the stand was pretty straightforward, except for the smaller screws on the foot. Now, I wasn't expecting to have to change screwdrivers when installing the stand, but it uses substantially smaller screws, so just keep that in mind. I had to run out to the hardware store and grab a smaller screwdriver just to get that little bottom foot back thingamajig with the little rubber thing on there in place. So yeah, other than that, everything else was pretty straightforward. As for I/O, on the back we have from left to right, Ethernet port, antenna jack, audio output in RCA and digital optical. On the back panel, there are 3 HDMI inputs. The one on the right is the designated eARC port, and these other two are where you would connect a next-gen gaming console. We will dig a little bit deeper into the HDMI inputs on this TV later in the video. This is going to be a long one, so make sure you use the timestamps and the chapters that are down below. On the side panel, we have HDMI input number 4, a composite AV input, along with a USB port. The H1 OLED is slim and sexy with virtually no bezel around the OLED panel. Turning on the TV, we have Vizio SmartCast operating system, which is a bit snappier and more responsive than the M series I reviewed a couple years ago. Now, I have already made 2 videos about this TV, one on how to set up 4K HDR and the other to set up eARC or ARC. And if you have this TV and need to know what to do to get those things operating, check out the playlist for this TV down in the description and with the card up top. Navigating through the SmartCast OS is very simple and straightforward. Finding your favorite apps is easy. You just sign in as normal and you're up and running. All right, moving on to picture quality. I know this is what a lot of you guys want to talk about and want to know. Like, is it an OLED? Yeah, of course, it's an OLED. So you're going to get those inky blacks. You're going to get that infinite contrast ratio. You're going to get, colors that pretty much will pop for the most part. Now you're probably wondering, is that the TV behind you? And yes, in fact, that is the Vizio OLED. Please don't judge it now because all the lighting is set up for me right here, along with the focus, obviously. And this is playing my custom-made 4K demo content, which is at the end of this video. So if you want to skip ahead to that and come back in or whatever, you're not going to hurt my feelings. So I'll put, a capture of this 4K demo content from the H1 OLED at the end of this video or toward the end of this video. So if you want to check that out, go ahead and check that out. So again, this is an OLED. You're getting those inky blacks. You are getting that infinite contrast ratio and colors that pop. And out of the box, this actually measured pretty well. So I busted out the Portrait Display C6 colorimeter and of course the pattern generator and the Kalman calibration software. And here is what I found out. After measuring all of the picture modes in both SDR and HDR, here are the best out of the box picture modes that I would use if I picked up this TV for my bedroom or living room or whatever. For SDR, I would use calibrated dark, as that has the most accurate color and luminance from all of the picture modes I measured in SDR. Now, one of the things I look at on these charts first is the margin of error. These numbers here need to be as low as possible. Closer to 3 is good, underneath 3 is imperceptible to the human eye, and 1 and under means reference level picture. Now, if you don't know how to read these charts, or this whole thing looks like gibberish to you, I have a link down in the description, and I'll put it in the card up top as well, of me in another video going over what this all means and what it means to you being the viewer of the TV. All right, moving on to HDR. I think the best out of the box picture mode is calibrated picture mode, seen here. This is actually quite impressive considering the cost of this OLED compared to the others, which is a great segue into price. Let's talk about price. At the time of filming, on Best Buy's website, the 55-inch H1 Vizio OLED is $1,100, which is $350 less than the LG, and the 65-inch Vizio OLED is $1,500, which is $650 less than the LG OLED. Now, these are great prices for OLED TVs. I mean, if you guys know anything about OLED TVs, like Sony made the first OLED TV that was, $2,500 back in 2008 for an 11-inch TV. Yes, you heard that right, an 11-inch TV. What is that? Like that? $2,500 for an 11-inch TV. And I remember a couple months back, Vizio put their 55-inch OLED on sale for $900. So in 12 years, this is the first time we're seeing a brand new OLED on the market that, okay, it was on sale, whatever, but it was under $1,000 for a 55-inch TV. That's 5 times the size of Sony's OLED and less than half the price back in 2008. So, yeah, I think that's a great price. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, man, we're now getting into the territory of, 55-inch Sony X900H is around that same price, $1,100, $1,000. And, you're getting an OLED for that. It won't have the same kind of motion handling and whatever that the Sony does. But like, yeah, like, if you're not like, super picky, this might be a good fit for you. You've got the Hisense H9G, which is $800 for a 55-inch. You've got the TCL R635, which is around $650. And, with this OLED, especially if it's at the $900 price point, like, you're not paying a whole lot more, and you're getting those inky blacks and infinite contrast ratio. So, yes, there are some downsides to the TV, which we will get into right now. Okay, so the TV's an OLED, so it's got the inky blacks, it's got the color pop, it's got the infinite contrast ratio. And even though the color, even out of the box on those two picture modes I referenced earlier, are really good, this does, suffer with motion handling and upscaling. So with motion handling, obviously fast moving things, sports and stuff like that, you might get a little bit of blur that's noticeable. And the only reason why I am, talking about it is because it was that noticeable to me. Normally there is normal blur, as it should be in real life, but this was a little bit, it could do better. It could do better. I would want a TV to do better. As far as upscaling, yeah, it has a little bit of problems upscaling. Now, if you were to get like something like an NVIDIA Shield TV Pro, which has its like AI upscaling and just stream everything off the NVIDIA, because honestly, I think the inbuilt apps on the TV, especially when you're watching 1080 content from like Hulu or something like that, TV shows, the AI upscaling in the Shield TV Pro is phenomenal. And that's a whole nother video. And if you guys are interested in that, definitely subscribe up, because if you have a TV that you've paid like, under $1,000 for, about $1,000 for, nothing like super expensive, and you're like, oh, you're watching a lot of 1080 content on Hulu, Amazon Prime Video, Vudu, TV shows, wherever you're streaming these things from, you should definitely check out the AI upscaler in the Shield TV Pro, because I don't like to use the word or phrase game changer, but that's a game changer. So video to come about that. All right. So another interesting thing that I experienced with this TV was the power issues. The TV would just turn off. In that first like 3-4 days, it turned off randomly. Once it was like 15 minutes, another time was 45 minutes, another time was like an hour and a half. And I was perplexed, to say the least. So got on the phone with Vizio tech support, and they were real nice, and they told me to do a couple of things, like the hard reset thing, where you unplug it, leave it for like a minute or so, press and hold the power button on the back of the TV, and then let go, and then wait another minute, plug it in. After that, no issues with power at all. Now, I've heard about people saying that if they didn't turn on the TV for a couple of days, they literally have to unplug it and plug it back in, and then it would turn on. I hear this little reset situation should take care of that issue as well. And then I saved the best for last, and that is the HDMI ports for gaming. So everywhere on Vizio's websites, and you ask anyone from Vizio, they will say the TV has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, and that HDMI 1 and HDMI 4 are capped at 40 gigabits per second, and HDMI 2 and 3 are capped at 48 gigabits per second. Now, if you don't know what any of this means, and you're like, well, yo, man, this is gibberish, what is this all about? LG did something where they downgraded from 48 gigabits to 40 gigabits, and I made a whole video about that, which I'll link down in the description and with the card up top, so you can kind of get a little more familiar with what's happening here. Okay, so I have the PlayStation 5 and I have the Xbox Series X, and this is the situation. It seems to me that something is odd when, you say, okay, well, ports 1 and 4 are HDMI 2.1 capped at 40 gigabits per second, but they don't support 4K 120 hertz, and that's specifically for gaming. Whereas HDMI ports 2 and 3 are 48 gigabits per second, and they support 4K 120. Whereas the LG, all 4 ports are 4K 120 and capped at 40 gigabits per second. So that would mean to me that on the Vizio OLED, ports 1 and 4, which are capped at 40 gigabits per second, should also support 4K 120, because there's no like little magic button where you just turn on and turn off 4K 120. It's literally just a bandwidth situation. So if you have 40 gigabits of bandwidth, then you should be able to support 4K 120, and they do not. They do not. In fact, Vincent from HD TV Test has a $5,000 device from Meridio, and he was able to test all the ports on the Vizio OLED, and it turns out that only 2 ports support 40 gigabits per second pass-through, and that's HDMI 2 and HDMI 3. So, with all that information and what I've discovered, because I was not able to get 4K 120 on HDMI 1 and 4, which would lead me and pretty much everybody else to believe that HDMI ports 1 and HDMI port 4 are HDMI 2.0B ports, which have some of the features of HDMI 2.1, but not the bandwidth. And the bandwidth is what we want. So pretty much this Vizio H1 OLED has 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, and that's HDMI 2 and HDMI 3. HDMI ports 1 and 4 are your standard HDMI 2.0B ports. So if you were confused about it, I'm here to tell you this is how the ports on the TV act. And in real world testing, this is what they are. So if the notion of 4 HDMI 2.1 ports had your hopes up, I'm sorry, this TV just does not have that. So now that that's out of the way, 4K 120 Hz gaming, I was not able to get that working on the PS5 with the Vizio H1 OLED. However, I did get it working with the Xbox Series X if and only if variable refresh rate VRR is turned off. When you have VRR on, it starts glitching out and the picture does all this weird stuff. However, if it's just standard, no VRR, 4K 120 Hz, looks great, feels great. This footage of me playing Call of Duty is 4K 120 Hz on the Vizio OLED. So, I mean, if you want it for the Xbox Series X and you're okay waiting for them to fix the VRR, cool. You know, this is a great TV for that. So the big question is this TV right for you? That's really what it boils down to. And basically, you know, if you can kind of get over like the little bugs that are in the TV, you're going to know that like, okay, it's going to have a little issue here. It's going to have a little issue there. I mean, you know, if you can get a 55-inch OLED for $900 or even $1,100, like that's a pretty good deal. The 65-inch at $1,500, like there are a lot of TVs at the $1,500 price point that are better, but they're going to be 55-inch. So to get a 65-inch OLED for $1,500 is pretty good. I mean, you know, Vizio, you know, you got to give it up to them. They put a pretty compelling argument together. If you can get one of these things on sale, especially that 55-inch for $900, I would just buy it just to put it in another room. Like that's not, obviously it's not going to, go toe to toe with my $4,000 professionally calibrated LG E9 65-inch. But, you know, if I wanted this into like a bedroom or like a game room or a man cave, like totally worth it. Totally worth it. And I think if Vizio really wanted to, like take it to LG, they could, do a couple of things like fix all these silly little bugs, make sure all 4 HDMI ports are 2.1 ports that actually, you can get 4K 120 on all 4 ports, and get a faster or more powerful processor to help with the motion handling and the upscaling of 1080 or lower content. Yeah, I think they've got a winner here. So I'm really excited to see what Vizio comes up with in their, I don't know what they call it, the H2 or the I2, or I don't know what their nomenclature stuff is. But yeah, I think they're really onto something here. If they really wanted to kind of steal a whole bunch of market share away from LG, they could easily do so just by fixing a couple of things. But yeah. That's what I think. Anyway, you guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. Of course, if you have any questions, leave them down there or hit me up on social or email. I'm going to go ahead and play the 4K demo content now. And everything's going to be like done correctly. Obviously, the lighting is going to be done. I'm going to white balance to the screen there with the 18% gray card. And this is my 4K demo content. Enjoy, and I'll see you next year. Yeah, 2021, here we come. Peace.
Thank you.